Hi, this is Harish here. Welcome to DB2 LUW tips and tricks part 4 video tutorial. In this tutorial, I am going to talk about data movement without intermediate data file. The traditional approach is with intermediate data files. So it's a 3-step process: export, transfer, load. So first step is to export the data to DEL or IXF file format using the export command. Then you have to transfer the file to the target system or the server using FTP command. Third step is to load the data into the target database using load or import command. So this is a 3-step process. Now if we this tooltip is for moving data without intermediate files involved. Now there are two methods of doing it. So the first method is load with cursor using the load command. This is a typical load command. The load command has the ability to load the data from DEL file, IXF file, ASC file. Also, it has the ability to load with the cursor option. So we'll demonstrate that with examples. The second method to move data without intermediate files is DB2 move command with copy action. So we'll see both with examples. So this is just a slide that is 2 points to consider. Very important, highly reliable network uptime. So this is very important because there is no data file involved, right? So over the network the data has to transfer from the source machine to the target machine, so the network should not go down. So highly reliable network uptime should be there between the systems connecting the source and data target databases. The next point is source database should be cataloged and accessible from the target. This is because no intermediate data files involved. It's going to connect to the source database and directly pull the data, so it has to be cataloged. The next is actually good to run the command from the target server. This is more like, see, typical usages in the target server, you will be setting up some QA system or staging system or something. You'll be setting up something on a target machine, so the source will obviously be loaded with other applications and other people accessing it. This is a typical scenario. So wherever the load is less, there you try to run this command so that it can run a bit faster. So the overhead will not be there on the server side, on the source system. Okay. The next important point, the next 3 points, is about DB2 move command. DB2 move command cannot be used for tables with identity columns. You have to stick with the traditional approach, because those file type modifiers are there, right? There are some keywords to identity ignore, identity override and all. Those options cannot be given, so you have to use a typical approach only. Then the other thing is DB2 move must have different source and target databases. So when you are using the DB2 move utility, the source database and target database should be different. Now the method 1, right, the load with cursor method, that can have that can move data within the database itself between two different tables. It can move. The source and target can be the same. Whereas for DB2 move utility, the source and target must be different databases. The last point is running multiple DB2 move may result in deadlocks. So when you are trying to move multiple tables, you need not group 10 tables in one DB2 move command, another 10 tables in another DB2 move command, and another 10 tables in another DB2 move command, and so on, so that you run these DB2 move 3 instances parallelly and you can get the job done quicker. No, it's not going to work that way. You might end up in some deadlocks, because the DB2 move utility uses a lot of internal catalog locks and other stuff. So it's always advisable to use the DB2 move utility only one instance at a time, because it has the support for moving multiple tables. So you need not worry about that. Okay, so we'll close the presentation. We'll jump to the examples now. So to simulate 2 different databases, what I'm doing is, like, I cannot go for 2 physical machines and demonstrate. So this is like in the same system I'm having 2 instances. Look at here, DB2 get instance, DB2 inst2. So this will be my source instance, which has DB2 list DB directory, which has housing the src db. Okay, and it's a local database in this particular instance, which will serve as my source instance. Okay, so I'll exit from here also actually. and this is my target instance. So db2 get instanc, my target instance is db2 inst1, db2 list db directory. So it has two databases. If you look at the test is my target database, you can know this is like a local database. Okay, srcdb is the remote database. You can look here, it is a remote database which has been cataloged here. So I should be able to connect it from the target, right? So db2 connect to srcdb user db2 inst2 using db2 inst2. Okay, you got connected. db2 list tables. So we have two tables, table A and table B. db2 list tables for schema foo. Another two table, table C and table D under foo schema. So there are total 4 tables, and this is in source db, and I am able to connect it from the target server itself. So that is the point here. So I will connect reset. Clear. So these are the commands for it. So this is how we catalog. This is so typical of db2, so nothing new here. db2 catalog tcp ip node, the node name, remote, localhost. So in the place of localhost you can give the ip address, then server db2 inst2 is the svc name of the remote instance. Then you need to catalog the database srcdb at node src inst. So these are the two simple steps that needs to be followed. Otherwise you will get the error saying database alias name srcdb cannot be found when you use either of the method. Okay, now so this is the table A. It has the contents 1000. It is having an id integer, a name and a salary. So it has some 1001 as id, Sam as the name, 10,000 as salary. 5 records it has. Same with table B, same with table C, same with table D. These are all some sample tables. We saw the tables and the contents of the table. Now the first method is db2 load with cursor. Okay, so here first I need to connect to the test database. So this is in the target machine. I am connecting to the test database. I am connected. Next step is to hold the data. I need to create the table. So in the load scenario, this is just a load command, right? Load with cursor. So in a load scenario, the table structure has to be there in the target. So we have to create that. Done. Third step, this is the important step. See, declare my cursor. So this is the cursor which we are declaring on the database srcdb, which is the remote database, with user inst2 using inst2 for the query table EA. Okay, so this is an important step. So we have declared a cursor on a remote database which is pointing to a remote database. Then you use, this is a normal load command, except that it is loading from a cursor, of cursor insert into table name, and it is inserting into the table that we just created. It's done. We'll look at whether it has successfully loaded the data. Yes, it is. So it has successfully loaded the data. 5 records are loaded into db2 inst1.myTable, and I have also done connect reset. So this is the first method, very straightforward, clear and simple. You have to connect to the database, create the required table, declare the cursor on the remote database, load the data from the cursor type, from the declared cursor. You are done. Okay, now if it is a local database, see, you can ignore this class actually. So because if it is within the database also, you can pretty much move the same data. You need not specify the srcdb database class here. It should point to the, it should declare a cursor within that database, the currently connected database. So So both kinds of movement, if your source and target are different machine also, you can use this method. If it is within the same database also, you can use this method. So this is a very effective method, load with cursor. The next method that I'm going to talk about is the method 2 that we were in the previous slide that was shown, is DB2 move utility with copy action. Okay, so for that we have to use, so the same thing goes here also. So we need to first create the required tables. We need to have those tables up front, right? Okay, so before that I'll drop the because this has some old data and stuff, so let me just drop those things. DB2 connect to test. Okay, so it is already dropped, so there is nothing there. Oh, then we need to create it actually. Okay, so as the same case, we have to first create the table. So these two tables we need to create it. Okay, so creation is done. So DB2 connect reset. So I am not connected, so that is one advantage here. The DB2 move utility itself, by itself it will connect. Okay, so you need not explicitly connect to the database. So this is the command DB2 move. src db is the source DB, copy is the action, tn we have to specify the table names, comma separated table names, schema name dot table name, comma schema name dot table name, and double quotes has to be there, and it has to be escaped, because in the Unix, right, otherwise it won't at all invoke the DB2 move utility. The move utility will not run at all actually if you ignore this backslash escape character actually. Then CO, the copy option is target DB. So test is my target database, username and password for the test database, and -u and -p is for the username and password for the source database, and the mode here is load only. Okay, so the DB2 move utility is running in a load only mode. Okay, to load the data, right? As you see, it is starting the load phase, it is doing its background activity, and it should be complete, and the message files will be generated. We can look at the message files also. It will say the utility is beginning to load data from srcdb inst2.table A, then foo.table C. So it's all successful. Okay, so let's go and look whether our success is there in the query. We will query the table basically. Okay. So DB2 connect to test. So two tables have been loaded with 5 records each. Okay, so now what I am doing is I am inserting one record each in one table, inst2.table A and foo.table C. Okay, then I am coming out, connect reset. So now it should have 6 records each. Okay, now I will again run the DB2 move utility. Okay, this time when I run the DB2 move utility, I am using a different option here. Source DB is the source, copy action. I am using TF. The TF is for, see, the TN is to specify directly table names. The TF is for specifying a file which will contain the table names. So obviously if you are going to move 30 tables or 50 tables, you cannot give all the thing in the command line. It's going to be too tedious. So this is a good way of doing things. We look at the tab names.txt file, right? So we are giving a path and the text file. So this is the text file. So typical, it just contains the schema name.table name. You can give multiple, like I am just having 2, you can give even 100, it doesn't matter. So it's going to process one table at a time and just do its job. Okay, just an organized way of doing things. You cannot give everything in TN, right? So I am doing the same thing here, just copying and just executing the same command again. So it's connecting to the database, successful. It's starting the load phase. It's done, everything is done. So DB2 connect to test, and we'll look at the data, the 2 tables that we have loaded, right? So we'll just copy that, paste it. See, it is again having only 5 records each. The inserted 6th record in each table is missing because it is doing a replace. So it is deleting all the existing contents of the table and copying from the remote database. So if you are using this command, please make sure that there is no existing data in the table, like you are just kind of setting up new data or new table, right? Like from the scratch. If it is your intention is to add some data to the existing table, don't use this method because it is going to delete your existing contents, delete your existing table, not drop the table, delete the contents of the table and then reload it from the source database. So you will lose your existing data. So that is one important thing when using this TN or TF option, DB2 move with copy option. Okay, whereas when you do with load with cursor, it's a typical load, so you can always specify you want to insert into table or replace into table, like that you can specify those things, or you can use the traditional approach of export transport load if you want to add data to that, right? So that is the one thing you have to take care. And there is one more. Okay, let's go and drop everything, all the 4 all the 2 tables and 2 schema that we created, we are just dropping them. Okay, so we'll connect reset. So now the target database does not have any table definitions or any data or anything from the source. Okay, we have reset it. Now there is one more DB2 move command, source DB copy action. Here it is SN schema name. Okay, so this is like the 2 schemas that we have given. This is not simple data movement, but it is the entire schema movement, wherein from the source DB to the target database you are moving the entire schema. In our example we have only 2 tables, whereas actually it will move along with those things. It will move stored procedures, UDFs, views, indexes, everything, all possible relevant schema objects it will move. So please and also if you look at the mode here, see DDL and load. So you need not have the target objects created then you load the data. This is something like you are copying the entire schema, target objects will be created and the load also will be done. So let's just try that out. Since it is moving lot of other objects also, it will use systools schema and systools table space for some temporary internal operations. It's much more complicated. The internal processes and things are somewhat different. The operation itself is different. It is entire copy schema operation rather than just simple table movement. If you know specifically, okay, these are all the tables you want to move, it's always better to go with the previous examples that we have just demoed. So it's done. Let's check whether all those things are there, have been moved or copied. Okay, it's all done. So all the 4 tables are there, table A, table B, table C, table D. So everything got loaded. We did not create the definitions. The definition automatically got created from the source, like when it is moving. So that is the action, right? DDL and load. And there is another action which you can say DDL only. which means that only the tables will be moved, the data won't be moved. So that is also possible with DB2 move, schema move. But in our case it is fine because we are just having only the tables, we are doing it. When you know specifically, when your intention is for moving specific tables, probably this is not a best way. Go with either the TF method or with load with cursor method. Go with TN if you are only moving 2 tables or 3 tables at a time. Okay, so that is it. Thank you very much. See you in the next tutorial. Thanks. Bye bye.